My wife's friend was being creepy and flirting with me, so I secretly recorded her. My M41 wife, Becky, F39, is planning on traveling abroad to visit her sister and her family in the next few days. She'll be gone for the next 2.5 weeks. Over the past year, my wife has become very good friends with our neighbor, Emily, F37, who lives a few houses down. Long story short, Emily makes me feel uncomfortable, and I think she's trying to make a move on me. At first, I thought she was joking, and I didn't think much of her behavior, but now it only makes me feel uncomfortable. Earlier today, Becky told me that she chatted with Emily and mentioned how she'd be going overseas for a few weeks. She said that Emily offered to come by and drop off some food for us, myself and our 11-year-old daughter, Alice, from time to time. Becky was reluctant to agree, but after Emily insisted, she finally agreed. I was surprised that she'd agree to this without consulting me first, so I told her that it made me uncomfortable. Becky said that Emily means well, and it would be rude if we were to refuse now. I said okay, but that she shouldn't be surprised if Alice and I forget to open the door every time Emily comes knocking. Becky said that I was being a jerk to someone offering us kindness. Update 1. Early this morning, I spoke to Becky about my concerns regarding Emily's behavior. She said that Emily doesn't have any ulterior motives and only means well. She also brought up how Emily has her own husband and always tells Becky how great he is. For some more context, Emily is married, but her husband isn't home too much as he works in the military. When I asked if she could tell Emily that we don't need food deliveries, she said it would be awkward to mention it right before her trip and how it would only be once or twice a week. Another thing Becky mentioned that has only increased my uneasiness is that Emily had given her a spare house key, just in case of emergencies or anything like that. For those wondering, my wife is leaving a few hours past midnight tonight. Context for clarification regarding the key. Emily gave my wife her own house key, but doesn't have the key to our home. Some more context, for those wondering what Emily does, I can tell you that she does a lot of unnecessary physical contact, like hugging me whenever she sees me, which didn't bother me the first few times but increasingly makes me feel uneasy. Not only that, but she has made very suggestive comments in the past. I would also add that the way she dresses and her body language when she comes to our house seems to be a bit flirtatious. Based on the past few months, I'm fairly certain she's trying a move based on how she's been acting and what she has said. Maybe she is only trying to be nice and I'm overthinking. Nonetheless, the whole situation makes me uncomfortable. Off the top of my head, I can tell you that she does a lot of unnecessary physical contact, makes very suggestive comments, and the way she dresses when she comes to our house when I'm home also makes me a bit uncomfortable. Update 2. I would like to thank everyone who responded to my first post. I really appreciated your insights and support. I've taken the advice suggested multiple times in the comments and have installed a doorbell camera the day after my wife had left home. Fortunately, nothing had really happened so far, so I didn't really see much of a need for an update until recently. Without further ado, here is the update. For the past few days, things have been pretty quiet. I've been enjoying spending quality time with my daughter, Alice. She attends a summer day camp during my working hours, but we've been spending every evening, and the past weekend, together watching movies, going on walks, playing video games, etc. My wife, Becky, had planned on teaching Alice how to cook this summer, but since that is yet to occur, I've taken the opportunity. I think Alice is a natural, she picks up instructions quickly, and we've been having a lot of fun. The day before yesterday, our neighbor, Emily, came to drop off some food as she had told Becky she would. I did open the door as I decided to just accept once, to be polite, but I let her know that she didn't need to worry herself with any other deliveries as my daughter and I would be cooking. She was acting normally, until the very end where she said something along the lines of, "If there is anything else I can do for you, please let me know." She said it in a very flirtatious tone. I thanked her and told her that I appreciated the gesture but reiterated that we would be able to manage on our own. She then said, Well, if you ever crave anything else, just let me know. Just think of it as a substitute for Becky. This made me feel a bit uncomfortable, mainly because of the tone she said it in. The next morning, yesterday, Alice and I were rushing to get to camp and work. Emily popped out from nowhere and started telling me how her driveway was being resurfaced, and she needed somewhere to put her car for the next few days. She asked if she could place it on our driveway, and I agreed, as Alice and I were in a rush, and because she dropped off food the previous night. As I was driving away, I was mentally kicking myself, as now she'd have a reason to hang around our house. Later that day, I was home doing some chores in our garage when Emily pulled up in her car, mentioning again how her driveway was being resurfaced. I could see that it was indeed the case. We had a bit of small talk, but at some point, she went into a tirade about her husband. She shared how she sometimes felt unappreciated by him sometimes and how they don't get to spend time together. I didn't say too much during this, only that I felt sorry she felt that way. I glanced at my phone and then pretended that Alice was texting me to come pick her up. It was close enough to her time anyway. I said goodbye and locked up my house. Yesterday evening was largely uneventful, and I'm looking forward to spending some more time with my kid. Update 3. I wanted to give a quick update on what's been happening since my last post. Becky will be back in a few days, Friday night, and I didn't want to disrupt her trip or make her worry, so I've spared her most of the Emily details until she arrives. From speaking with Becky, however, I have learned that her sister does not like Emily at all. Becky told me that she was pretty upset about the arrangement and that she thinks Becky is overly trusting. Aside from that, things have been largely quiet this week. Emily's driveway has been completed, so she has taken her car back. I haven't seen much of her since then. Final update. Hey everyone, it's been a pretty wild 24 hours. I'll give a quick recap of what's been happening. Since Becky was coming home last night, Alice and I spent most of the day tidying up. In the late afternoon, I decided to mow our lawn as it was about time to do so. In the past, I have occasionally mowed Emily's lawn, shoveled her driveway, etc. I do this because her husband has done this for us before, so I've always thought that this was just paying them back. Becky has also asked me to do this a few times in the past. However, because of what's been going on, I figured it would not be a good idea and I purposely mowed our lawn when her car was away so that I could return to my house discreetly. After putting away our mower, I saw Emily's car pull into her driveway. Just as I was about to go inside, she called out to me. She asked when Becky would be back. I told her that Becky's flight was scheduled to arrive tonight, and she seemed happy about that. It was a humid day, and I was sweating a bit. She mentioned that I looked hot, may not have meant it that way, but with her, I never know, and suggested that Alice and I should drop by for drinks. I thanked her for the offer but explained that I couldn't, and the conversation mostly ended there. Becky arrived home last night, a few hours after midnight, and was very exhausted from her flight. After I brought her some food, we were only able to talk a bit about her trip before she went to bed. I planned on discussing Emily and showing her the video the next day once she had rested, but she was still asleep in the morning, and I had to run errands. This is where things got complicated. After finishing my errands, I went home to spend time with Becky, and tell her about the video. When I got home, Alice had already gone out with her friends, so it was just Becky and me. Becky seemed upset, so I asked her what was wrong. She told me that after waking up, she received a text from Emily welcoming her back and inviting her over. Becky agreed and went to Emily's house. She noticed that Emily's living room was messier than usual, but what bothered her more was a pair of men's exercise shorts on the sofa. They looked identical to a pair I had. I say had because those shorts went missing about a month ago. There was also what Becky thought was a condom wrapper on the floor next to it. During their conversation, Emily talked a lot about how kind I've been to her and how much we talked while Becky was away. Emily even suggested that Becky should have extended her stay at her sister's so she could continue looking after Alice and me. At that point, Becky excused herself and went home. She mentioned that she felt overwhelmed and almost sick. She told me that she came home panicking about what Emily might have meant, so she spoke with her sister. Her sister called BS on Emily's claims, as everything seemed too conveniently placed, which calmed Becky down a bit. After sharing all this with me, she asked about my contact with Emily during her absence. I told her about the food, the car, and the conversation from the previous day. Then I showed her the video. Becky was stunned and said that Emily was blatantly trying to flirt with me. After watching it, she said she felt sick about all her interactions with her. The main issue still bothering us is the shorts. I had an identical pair that went missing. We're unsure if the shorts Becky saw are mine or if Emily bought the same pair for her little stunt. As I mentioned before, Emily has been to our house, so it's not impossible for her to have taken them. However, we lack proof of this. Considering how Emily gave my wife her own house key before she left, it all seems very well thought out. Also, we're increasingly starting to suspect that her husband may be okay with what she's been doing. Becky plans to return the key in the next few days. OP responded in the comments. User: I'm actually afraid of your wife's safety. OP: yes, at this point I am most concerned for my wife and daughter. I'm pretty doubtful that Emily will try anything drastic, and think she'll continue her current strategy and just hope for different results. My wife has also made it clear that she doesn't want to go back to her house. Yeah, she definitely doesn't seem to be in her right mind. We'll be exercising extra caution from here on out. User: I find the shorts thing really weird. She's making it look like you went over there with shorts on and left in your underwear. OP: my wife and I came to this same realization too and laughed about it, just visualizing how ridiculous that would look. It did break some of the tension. For all of Emily's scheming, it was a pretty funny oversight. So far nothing else seems to be missing, but as we go on with our daily lives maybe we'll notice something missing. We currently have a cat, and I'll gauge my wife's opinion on getting a dog. If my daughter heard, I'm sure she'd love the idea. User: why do you think the husband agrees with that whole situation? OP: we don't have concrete evidence for this and are currently only assuming. Our thoughts are based on a conversation that I heard him having in the past. The first was during a neighborhood barbecue about 5 months ago, where I did overhear him making a pretty graphic description of Emily to another one of our neighbors. When neighbors started making suggestive comments, he didn't seem to mind at all. To me, and my wife, at least, it did not seem like an appropriate way to talk about one's spouse to a stranger. User: has your wife apologized for dismissing your concerns before she left for her trip? OP: yes, she has admitted that she should have taken my concerns more seriously. Aside from that, she is still pretty disturbed by what she saw. Yeah, the doorbell camera has really proven its worth, and in addition to the cameras we already had, every angle outside our house is covered.
That's where the story ends. Please consider subscribing to keep up to date on this post and other daily Reddit content.